Motherhood Circle video series. Today I'm going to sit down and talk to you about my postpartum plan, my freebie, my wonderful plan. So I often think a lot of us think about a birth plan, but what about a fourth trimester or a postpartum plan? The actual longest trimester of all is the fourth trimester, so why not plan for that and actually set aside some intentions and think about what exactly we want to create in that fourth trimester with our beautiful newborn baby, how we want to feel, how we can prepare ourselves. This isn't like a plan where you have to stick to it. That, if you don't stick to it, everything's going to break loose and you're going to have all sorts of troubles. This is really about setting intentions and having a deep think about some of the things that you want to achieve in your fourth trimester. And I think it's really important also to think about it from a point of view of having that intention and setting that intention, saying, I just want a peaceful postpartum. I want to relax as much as I possibly can. I just want to bond with my baby. Or I really want to have, some practical steps ready for me to get ready for my baby so I can get organized. And by, 2 months, I want to have a routine of going out to play groups and that sort of thing. That's okay as well, So this episode's really going to deep dive and give you those thoughts and questions to consider so you can plan for the most peaceful postpartum, whatever that is for you, because everyone is so unique and individual. So I hope you really enjoy this episode. This will be the very first episode on from me directly by myself, and I will try to roll these out as much as I possibly can, because obviously I'm really passionate about postpartum, fourth trimester, you in that transition from woman to mother. So transforming, birthing into motherhood. That whole transformation is basically what I specialize in. So I'm here to support you through that. So as I always say, snuggle up, grab a cup of coffee, grab a cup of tea, grab some ice cold water, get under your blanket and relax and watch this episode. I hope you really enjoy it. There's some actionable, practical tips in here that are really simple. And I know that you're just going to breeze through your postpartum with some of these intentions. So I will see you soon. Hi, today we're talking about the postpartum plan, something that I created for you guys as a freebie to download. You can jump online. I'll put the actual download, the URL will pop up on the screen. You can jump on there before you watch this episode and start writing out on your own postpartum plan. Start filling it in. I think it's about 8 pages, and basically you can start planning for your postpartum. This is actionable, this is practical, this is going to set you intentions and get those real conversations and thoughts going so that you can move to motherhood with ease and, really know that you're going to be looked after and supported. You've got that intention there, you've made those plans. So this is a bit of a fly session. I'm just going to basically talk. There's no script or anything. I'm just going to go through the plan and explain it to you. So this is normally available as a freebie, a downloadable for mothers to access. But I thought as an extra bonus that it would be really good for me to go through this plan so that I can explain to you the intention behind it, the meaning behind it, and why it's important that you follow every question, you fill out every answer, so you can really think about exactly what it is that you want to plan for your postpartum. So I'm just going to go through the booklet, and if you do this with me, then we can do it together. And by the time this episode's over, you would have had a thought and probably filled out all your questions. And if you're time poor at the moment, you can fly through this and come back to it later. But on the first page, there's an introduction page, and it just says, hello, beautiful mama. Welcome to the Motherhood Circle postpartum plan. And I'm thrilled that you've taken the steps to plan for your postpartum. I'm totally thrilled that you're taking the step. This is something that I wish that I had been able to do with any of my babies, and I definitely will be doing it with my third when I end up going through that process at some point. This is your journey, and only you can create the postpartum that you desire and deserve, and I truly believe that. It's not about aligning yourself with your mother's postpartum or what your mother or best friend think that you should do. It's really aligning yourself with what you feel are your core values and what's most important to you, not the outside world. And if you have completely different core values or a different way of doing things, that's totally fine as well. Own it, know it, own it, and just move on from that. This is about setting up some strong and healthy foundations that will help you on your transition as a newborn mother. And it isn't about making sure everything's perfectly set out or planned, as there's no way that you can plan for everything that you may experience or face on your journey. This is simply about taking some steps to be more supported and organised, and a few tips to help you have a more peaceful postpartum. I invite you to take some time to work through this guide and follow your steps, and join me in my Facebook group. I've put up the link here. I'll put up the link in this as well so you can see it. But it's just the Motherhood Circle community group, and I would love to see you in that group as well, and to share that you've been working through this postpartum guide. I would love to hear your feedback, what you thought was great, what you would like to see in there for next time. Okay, postpartum plan, first page. So the first question, it's basically a load of questions for you to get thinking, but then you can sort of, basically the whole point is so you can see your vision and see it come to light, get you to have those thoughts and visualize what it's going to be like. What are you most worried about when your baby arrives? So write it down. Are you worried about that you're not going to be a good mother, that you won't have the patience, that you don't know how you're going to survive the sleep deprivation, overwhelm or isolation, that you don't have the support that you would have liked to have? Maybe you're worried about financial difficulties, going from the one to two, from two incomes to one. Maybe you're worried that you have to go back to work too soon, or you're worried about the relationship changes with your partner. Maybe you're worried whether you'll be enough, whether you'll know enough, whether you'll be nurturing enough, whether you will, enjoy being a mother. There's so many things that we go through and question. Maybe you're worried about breastfeeding. There's so many things that I could just go on about that I know that you know exactly what it is that you're worried about. So write those down, because these are going to help you with the next steps. Who will be your biggest support in the first 3 months? So just write those down, who your biggest support people will be. Think of a few people, maybe write down 3 to 5 people who will be, your biggest support. In the next question, it says, how will they support you? So think about physically how they'll support you and emotionally how they will support you. Now, I want you to have a think about this, because here I've written down some of the things as well for you to expand on that. So basically, obviously, there's many kinds of support. There's financial support, there's emotional support, there's physical support. So how are these people going to support you in your mind? Your expectations and your thoughts about this. Will they be dropping over food? Will they be giving you non-judgmental support? Will they hang out a load of washing when they pop over? Will they bring you some nourishing food or snacks, or like a dirty magazine or something, a bit of entertainment for you? Will they hold your baby while you go have a shower or while you have a nap? Will they go take the baby for a walk or something like that? Will they make you a hot cup of tea or coffee, or bring you some water, or rub your back, or whatever it is that you think that they could help you with? I know that it's hard to try to visualize and imagine how people could support you, but I think it's important to really think about, what it is that you may need support with, whether it's physical or emotional. Physical, I found that mothers, before that, I did a big survey and I had over 120 responses. And from the survey responses, I found that women felt like before they had their children that they would need a lot of physical support. And then after they had their child, they realised that actually they needed that emotional support. So I would highly recommend, of course, thinking about physical ways to support yourself, but also emotional, because emotional is such a huge challenge for us. We have all these thoughts and mindset things going through our head, and they can really make or break us. They can make us ruin our whole day if we get sucked into those negative thoughts and emotions, or feeling sorry for ourselves, or wishing we had support, and then we don't want to call out to anyone to ask for support because we're defensive. And it's also that time when we're highly emotional as well, because we've got all these hormones flooding through our bodies, and they make us vulnerable, and they make us, they're there to help us connect and bond with our baby and go through all these changes. But they also make us very vulnerable. We're dealing with like sleep deprivation, or waking up every couple of hours to feed a baby, which by the time you're at the end of your pregnancy, you're probably waking up every hour or two anyways to go to the toilet, if I remember correctly, for a little dribble of wee or something like that. Oh, because it's so uncomfortable and your back hurts and your bum hurts and you're sleeping on the wrong side. But, by the time the baby comes, waking up every hour or 2 hours and you've got to sit there and you've got to feed the baby and however long that takes to resettle them and put them back to sleep. And then before you know it, you're awake again, So that is a big adjustment as well. Thinking of emotional and physical ways that people can support you. And then the next question is, what are their strengths and weaknesses? Now, I ask this because I found as a new mother myself that I had, I won't say unrealistic expectations, because I feel like my expectations were probably reasonable, but they weren't reasonable for the sort of support that I had available around me. I was expecting basically to have healthy support and lots of it from people who I didn't have healthy relationships with, who were not supportive in the past, that a baby wasn't going to fix that and make it magically supportive. I kind of figured that because I'll have a baby, everyone would want to be around me and magically want to help me. I don't know what was happening there. I don't know if it was the hope or just assuming that that's how things would be. But it certainly wasn't like that for me, at least. And I know many women, I was having a conversation with some mothers the other day, and they were talking about the isolation. You think that you're going to have the support, and then people disappear off the face of the earth, and it's all exciting. And then when you have your baby a week or two later, there's nobody there. So the reason I'm sharing this with you is just to give you some real insight into some mothers' concerns and problems and challenges that they had, including my own, which my story isn't isolated. It's a very common story, unfortunately. So I want to just say that so that you have that expectation, you can actually set yourself up correctly for this journey. And you may have lots of support. You may have an amazing mum who's available, who pops over and looks after you. I've heard of stories like that where a mother stayed with her daughter for, a few weeks, and she was like her postpartum doula. And that, it brought tears of joy to my eyes, honestly, because there's nothing more that makes me happier to hear of a mother getting nourished and loved and looked after. It's what I believe that all mothers deserve. And that's why I think we should take the ownership and responsibility to set it up as much as we possibly can before we have our children. That's exactly why I'm giving you these tools and resources, so you basically can have a foolproof expectation, everything as much planned as you can, and go into it as strong as you can with the best foundations. So the strengths and weaknesses, back to the question, strengths and weaknesses here. Look, Danielle, she's great emotional support. She always listens without judgment. So obviously that's a strength of Danielle. So if you've got that person down as your support person, identify. Maybe your mum's an awesome cook and she loves cooking. So ask her, can she cook, and bring over some food for you? Maybe a week's worth of cooking or a couple of days. And also, you can also write here that maybe Danielle's not great at knowing when to leave. Maybe she overstays her welcome. So identify that. And, it's not the end of the world. It's not a bad attribute of that person. We're just saying, look, in this time, I'm probably going to be tired, or I'm going to have milk all over me. At that point, I might have my boobs out and might feel very uncomfortable having Danielle around while I'm, trying to get myself organised. Or maybe I just don't want to talk, and, maybe it's only okay for Danielle to come around for half an hour to an hour. So set those healthy boundaries up beforehand so you can feel comfortable saying to someone, you know what, I think, I'm going to go have a rest now. Thank you so much for coming over. And I'll give you a call, I'll message you, thanks so much for coming over. It's okay to set those boundaries up and have those healthy boundaries with people and communicate with them about that as well, because it's really about supporting yourself and, being able to have as much rest and bonding time with your baby, breastfeeding, whatever it is that you're trying to achieve at that point in time. So I'm going to go to the next page now. And I've written it here about the recent survey I did actually. In a recent survey I conducted, over 85% of mothers did not feel supported during postpartum. said they expected support. So I basically did I did a survey, and I asked women who didn't receive the support, who didn't feel supported in postpartum, to respond to my survey. So I had like 130 women, I think it was, that responded back to me, and 85% of them, that's 85 out of 100 people, said that they didn't receive the support that they thought they were going to get. So that means only 15%. So, I mean, that's from people who were not supported. Obviously, I'm not including those who are supported. But I believe a large, and everyone's idea of support is different. You know, I wasn't laying out specific guidelines. It's really about how you feel inside. If you feel supported, if you felt supported, and it could have been support from, you know, care providers, family, friends, partner, you know, just supported in general. But it's really sad to hear that those women all expected the support, but they, you know, didn't get it. So it would have been a huge shock for those women to not get it. So in a recent, I'm just going to read that out again because I'm getting a little confused. In a recent survey I conducted, over 85% of mothers that did not feel supported during postpartum said they expected support. Yes, that's right. That's what I was just saying. So that's a really sad realization that those women were shocked. I mean, if I had done the survey as well, I would have been one of those women as well. It is a really, and then I guess the process, just to explain it a little bit, in case you do go through this and then, you know, you wake up and you start feeling like it, but I'll explain to you my process and what I was feeling. It's a little bit emotional, actually, sharing this rawness and truth about my journey. But so you have your baby and you're really excited, and, you know, I thought I was going to be fending everyone off. And I had my sisters at the hospital. One of them was with me when I gave birth, and then my in-laws came straight away because they were up looking after our dogs. And then I didn't have any friends come. I didn't have any friends. I think I maybe had a friend. I really, like, all my colleagues and that from work who I'd spoken to all the time, they never came down to see me or really checked in on me. It was like as if I'd never existed to them. And I really didn't have the support from my family like I had hoped or expected. I was the first of all the children to have a baby, and I would say that I come from a bit of a dysfunctional family. So as I mentioned before, I was expecting kind of like miracles to happen. I was expecting a brand new baby would magically transform people into something that they weren't, or that wasn't there. The relationship wasn't there. You know, when you look at the history of the relationship, it just wasn't what I would call a healthy, supportive, caring relationship. Yeah, my husband went back to work after 2 days, and I had a cesarean. And I had, it was an unplanned cesarean, so I wasn't expecting that. So that was a struggle in itself. But also I had sciatic nerve down my bum or my leg, so I couldn't barely walk. And I literally was like rolling around on a office chair for like a week or two from the pain. It was excruciating. I was crying every day because the pain was so bad, and I couldn't hold my baby and walk because my leg would give way. It was the most excruciating pain I'd ever experienced, I think. It was just like a real sharp pain, and I couldn't walk properly. But yeah, I basically spent my days for the first couple of weeks, because then we went on to Christmas holidays. I had 2 December babies. But then we went on to, I was by myself for 2 weeks. So I just sat at home with my baby all by myself, and I had no one to talk to. I think I was on Facebook a lot, messaging people maybe my friend who had a baby, but she was dealing with her baby. And I didn't really, you know, want to burden her too much, I suppose, because she had her own stuff going on. And I didn't feel comfortable leaving the house. For me, getting out of the house with a newborn baby was a real big effort. But also I'd had cesarean, so I couldn't leave the home by myself for 6 weeks. I couldn't drive myself. I wasn't supposed to lift a pram in and out of the car. You know, not even really supposed to push a pram around for that time. So I was kind of stuck at home for the first 6 weeks, and I couldn't really do much. And I mean, it was nice, but I was really isolated. I didn't know. I was really lonely, and I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know what was happening. But all the feelings were coming in towards me. They were coming inside me, and instead of me recognizing that I was lonely and isolated, I felt sadness. I just felt pure sadness. I felt resentment towards those people. I felt anger. I felt bitter. I took it as like an attack, you know. They don't care about me. They don't love me. They don't love my baby. How could they not love her? They've rejected her. And I felt so much sadness. I can't explain to you how much sadness I felt. And when you've got no one to talk to, and I'd been in a workplace the whole time, so I was used to being around people and yabbering all day long. But when I was sitting at home and I was all by myself and I had no one, I literally had no one. And the biggest hurdle was, like I said to you, I just didn't know. I didn't know I was lonely. I didn't know I was lonely until I probably did my training, which is why I'm doing this and telling you about it now. I, blamed other people. I blamed my family a lot. I blamed, I hated people. I almost hated people. I'm sharing this truth because this is what I went through. I suppose in many ways I was very sad. It's very sad, isn't it? But that's the truth. And that's why when I'm sorry that I'm getting so teary, but that's why when I did this survey, it broke my heart. The things that people said, the loneliness, and they just wish that somebody had been there to reassure them, to tell them they were doing a good job. Non-judgmental support is what they wanted. They just wanted to be told they're a good mom, and I can relate to that so much because that's what I wanted. I just wanted somebody to walk through that door and tell me I was doing a good job, and that that's all I wanted to hear. I think that's what a lot of mums want to hear, and unfortunately it's just not something that we get, but it is something that a lot of us need. So I hope by sharing my story that if you're about to be a mum, it's not all doom and gloom, but it's normal if you feel this way. There's nothing wrong with it, but you can hopefully recognize that you're feeling a little bit lonely and isolated and get that support and help. So back to my postpartum plan. Hopefully by doing these steps, you will have a much more peaceful postpartum and you won't have so much isolation as I was explaining to you. So did I say to sit down and have a chat with these people? I haven't actually got it here. So what I would recommend is that when you've written down the people in this, you've written down who your biggest support will be, I highly recommend having a chat with those people. Obviously, if they're your biggest support, they're people you feel comfortable with, so have a chat with them. Say, look, you're a really great listener, and I think I'm going to need that support and have someone, to talk to. And I was really hoping that you could be that for me. Maybe we could have a coffee, meet up once a week, or, see how things go. But I was hoping that we could, connect and keep that line open. And if they work 5 days a week and they live like half an hour away from you, then they're probably not going to be as available as perhaps someone who lives around the corner, who doesn't work and who has a baby at home, who you can actually pop out and go out with. Having these thoughts and these conversations will help you put things into perspective. People who are working full time probably don't have a lot of time to give. It doesn't mean that they won't be available, but it means that, maybe Monday to Friday during the day, they're not going to be available. Maybe at night times is a more suitable time for them, or weekends and that sort of thing. So have these conversations with these people and ask them what their expectations are as well, and how, and what they were thinking and how they would like to be a role in your postpartum. And I'm pretty sure they would be completely honoured. If you think of them as a support, obviously they're wonderful people, and they're going to be completely honoured that you want them a part of this journey as well. And then if they're a woman or, going to go through that themselves, then you can reciprocate as well, and you can support each other, or whatever, life event that they go through. You can also open those lines of communication in future. So the next question, I'm going to try to power through this because I think this is turning into quite a long episode with my conversations and my stories. But page 3. So if you go to page 3, the question is, what does your postpartum look like when you sit down and close your eyes and visualize it? So have a think about it. What exactly does it look like? How does it feel? What kind of person are you? You know, like my ideal postpartum is like probably getting out a little bit with my husband, but mostly relaxing. I would love to be like nurtured and nourished. I would love to have my food delivered, like postpartum food that's really good for me for my postpartum, to help with my milk supply, with my hormones, help me recover after birth. I would love someone to deliver food to me. I would love to have someone come around to my home and give me a massage, a postpartum massage, masseuse come around. I would also really love to have friends come around, and non-judgmental friends who can sit there and hear me and hold space for me and just be loving and just have that connection. And I would also appreciate someone to take out my older children so that, you know, I can get some peace and quiet and just some relaxation time, either looking after the baby or just relaxing myself. I can see a few nice warm bubble baths in there with maybe some herbs or something in there, and just really relaxing in my postpartum. Now, if that sounds like something like you would like, make sure you write it down. Write down some of the things and aspects that you like about that. I'll give you a different example, and there's no right or wrong answers here, but some mothers that I've spoken to, they want a completely different postpartum. That's totally fine. I have met many ladies who they might live closer in the city, and they like to get out, and they'll go, and their daily thing is getting out for a coffee. So they love to go to their local coffee shop. So every morning, maybe 10 o'clock in the morning, they'll take baby out and go for a walk with the pram and go down to the coffee shop and mingle and be out in civilization with people and just be, you know, maybe they meet up with friends and family or, but I've heard of women just desperate to get out the door and go, and that's their thing and that's what they need to do. That's true to themselves. So have a think about what feels right for you, and then write that down, because I think that's a really important aspect of planning your postpartum as well. Do you imagine being supported by like-minded, non-judgmental mothers who understand your journey? How will you find these mothers? So do you want to be connected to other mothers going through the same thing? Is that something that you want to do? Do you want to meet up with them regularly? Do you want to find them in an online class, in an online group? Or do you not want to be surrounded by mums at all? Maybe you don't want to connect at all. Maybe that's not your thing. Have a think about it, and then think of where you can meet these people. There's online forums, there's mums groups, there's Pilates classes, there's mums and bubs classes, there's play groups, there's mums groups, there's mother circles. There's so many different ways that you can meet up with mothers. But just brainstorm, you know, what's your thing? What self-care will you do daily? So I put this one in because I think it's important for us to think about the self-care that we can be doing. I've also written down massage, positive affirmations, meditation, taking a hot bath, anything like that that brings you peace and joy. So it could be sitting outside with, you know, drinking a hot cup of coffee. I've got my words muddled up. Could be laying in the bath and relaxing, you know. It could be listening to your favourite music channel, or watching your favourite TV show, or just reading a book, whatever it is. But it could be using your favourite moisturiser every day and just feeling human, or having a shower every day as your self-care. It's just little micro things that we can do for ourselves to continue looking after ourselves. Okay, breastfeeding is the next one. So do you want to breastfeed? I put this one in because I think it's really important to ask that question. I don't think we should assume that everyone's going to breastfeed or assume that we should breastfeed, but I think that we should actually honestly answer that question. Do you want to breastfeed? Yes or no? And if you do, What steps have you taken to support you on your breastfeeding journey? I've listed some resources and ideas here as well. Some ways to support your breastfeeding journey. You can head to a breastfeeding association breastfeeding class. I highly recommend doing one of those classes. I think it's like a half day workshop, but you'll just learn so much about breastfeeding. I always say breastfeeding is natural, but it doesn't always come naturally, and it is a learned skill for both you and baby. So I highly recommend that class. I've also got a 10 breastfeeding survival tips guide or resources on my resources tab on my website. You can check that out. And also tips to find a lactation consultant. I've got another blog that you can check out as well. And how long do you plan to breastfeed? Now, this is just to have a think about how long. It doesn't matter if you don't reach your goal, but it's nice to have a goal, I think, just so that you can have that in your mind. It's interesting to also consider, your own goal rather than the World Health Organization goal, which is over 2 years, I think, or maybe your GP's goal, or maybe your mother-in-law's goal, or your mum's goal. I know my mum's goal was 6 months, so I set out with my first baby. If I breastfeed for 6 months, that's awesome. And then when I had my second baby, I decided that wasn't good enough for me. It actually made me feel bad when I only just made it to 6 months. So I wanted to breastfeed for 12 months. And I remember getting a bit of resistance from my mum because she only breastfed me for 6 months. And so when I got to 8 months with my second baby, she was constantly, don't feed that baby. She don't want your boob, blah, blah, blah. And, but I could stay true to my goal because I knew it was my goal and it was something that I was passionate about. So I could easily just deflect that negativity basically. And, just remind her this is my journey and this is what I want. So just respect that. Cool. So the next one is creating your foundation. So now you've sat down and answered all these questions and begun to visualize what your postpartum will look like. You're starting to see that people who will be supporting you in your journey and where you'll need the extra support, resources and understanding from. You're beginning to change your mindset to support you to have a peaceful postpartum, and I've put that twice in there for some reason, and a peaceful postpartum. The next page is a cheat sheet, and you can print it off and stick it on your fridge to help support you along your journey. Feel free to add anything extra that you've discovered during this planning process to support you. Remember, there's no right or wrong way, simply what is right for you and your baby. And I want to reiterate that as well. There is no right or wrong way. There's a right way for your friend and your friend's baby, and there's a right way for your mum and your mum's baby, and there's a right way for you. And you might make a million different choices before you get to the right way. There's nothing wrong with making mistakes, and it's not the end of the world if you do make a mistake. Forgive yourself and move on. This is a learning experience. We're learning. That's what we're doing as mothers. We're brand new to this. We're learning from our babies, and each baby you have, you'll learn something totally new every time as well. And I've also put some positive affirmations in here. So taking care of myself is a responsibility I will model to my children without guilt. And I say that because as mothers, we often forget to look after ourselves. We 100% jump into motherhood and devote ourselves to our babies. And I can vouch for this myself. When I first had my daughter, I 100% gave everything to her, my love and everything. And I don't know why, but I said, I give myself 100% to my daughter and my husband gets 50%. And I remember having a conversation with someone and I said, yep, so my daughter gets 100% of me and my husband gets 50. And they said to me, how does that work out? Because you can only give 100% to anything. And I was like, I don't know. I just always say that. So you can't actually give 100% to one person and then you're basically giving zero to the other people. So I stopped giving my husband anything because I was 100% dedicated to this baby. And I thought that was what being a good mum was. But I actually wasn't looking after myself, and being a good mother to me, and I think we should really focus on this, being you have to look after yourself. So self-care is imperative. It's imperative that you look after yourself. If you don't look after yourself, who's going to look after you? And then who's going to look after your baby? You have to look after yourself. You have to put yourself first. And then you will be a better mother, a calmer mother, a more connected mother. Trust me, I know, I've done this before. And I've seen the changes. It's amazing. So the next one is, I'm the exact parent my child needs to blossom, so I don't need to compare myself to others. And this is another one. There's no need to compare yourself to other people. There's no need to compare yourself to someone on Facebook or Instagram. You are everything your baby needs, and you are perfect just the way you are. You are enough, and you will always be enough. You are doing enough, and you are good enough. I want that to sink in. Do not compare yourself to anybody else. You are enough. You are enough, and you always will be enough. Your baby loves you. So let that sink in. I hope that that positive affirmation sticks with you, and don't compare yourself to anyone else, okay? I want you to repeat that mantra all the time, as much as you can. This is the postpartum cheat sheet that you'll see that you can print off, and I want you to go through that as well. Go through this and write it out and put it on your fridge, so it's there when you have your baby. You've got your plan, and you have a reminder, and you've got a plan. I'll just read out this, the birth of the mother. When you give birth, you not only give birth to your beautiful baby, but you also give birth to the mother inside of you. Amazing, right? This is a life-changing transition. You may experience many new emotions, like I've talked about before. You may no longer be in contact with your friends you previously spent a long time with, and you may find yourself spending a lot of time doing completely different activities like changing a bum, feeding a baby, getting vomited on, those sorts of things. Totally different, right? This change is stressful for the healthiest of relationships, and it's completely normal to start arguing, bickering, or disagreeing with your partner. From experience, I thought my relationship was over in the first day of motherhood. I couldn't believe how agitated I was, how tired I was. You know, I was nitpicking at my husband. I never was like that, and all of a sudden I was like, nothing he did was good enough for me. It was weird, but it did go away. I can reassure you that. Adding a new person to your family is one of the most exciting and amazing experiences of your life, and equally the most challenging. Sleep deprivation, P&D, breastfeeding challenges, birth trauma, isolation, and overwhelm are some of the common challenges mothers face. But you do not have to do this alone. And I say that, and basically I've got some information here in regards to my Mother Circles retreat. I'm looking at changing the name because retreat doesn't really give it justice. It's not really a retreat. It's not a meetup or anything like that. It's more of a practical guide without a guide. It's basically like a hub of information to get you started from 20 weeks of pregnancy right through to 3 or 4 months of having your baby. Some of the modules, I've got modules in there, so you can jump in there whenever you want to at a self-pace. There's no stress that you have to do anything. But the information will be there for you when and if you need it. So some of the modules and topics are breastfeeding, sleep, mother's intuition, learning to be the mother that you want to be. What else have I got there? I've got a birth module in there, giving you all the information on and making informed choices for you on your motherhood journey. And I also have a 6th module, which I can't remember at the moment. I think it's called Motherhood Transformation, actually, which has got Motherhood Guild and all the transformations of becoming a mother and all the mindset. It's mostly a mindset module, that one. But all that information will be available to you in this hub, basically. And then it will be a community, a group of mothers who totally get you and are going through the same things, a non-judgmental, supportive area for you to come to get that support. And of course, you will have access to me as well. And we will do live calls as well, group calls, so that I can really deep dive into what's going on with you in your life, reassure you, give that guidance and that support that you really deserve as a new mum. You may not know it now if you're currently pregnant. You might think, motherhood is going to be a breeze. It's really hard to try to communicate what will happen, and everyone has such a different experience. But I really want to have this support available for those mothers who feel that it's going to help them the thing that I really love about this is it's a practical guide. It'll give you the plan and the steps to help you. I'll have things in there to help you with your hospital bag. So we'll do lots of fun things as well. What to pack in your hospital bag. I'll go through, there's a module in there on that, a lesson I should say. And also what to put in your nappy bag, as well as tips and tricks, things that new mums just don't know until they're in the thick of it. Parenting rooms and, tips and tricks about punamis and things like that, but a really safe environment for us to have these conversations and for you to turn to. So if in the middle of the night that you're feeling really down and out and you don't have that support or friendship, or you're struggling with breastfeeding, you know who to turn to. You will have the support of someone, me, a motherhood guide, a mother of 2 children, as well as a wonderful community. And I just think of it as like a group of women who've got your back, the Motherhood Circle group, basically. And we're here to support you. And it's really going to be like a big family. I can just imagine all the relationships and friendships that are going to blossom through this beautiful program and in this hub centre. I'm still working out the names for it. It's a brand new program. If you come on board, you'll be my founding member, my brand new mamas, and I'm just so excited. If you want to find out more about that, I'll put the link up as well. And that's it for this session. I hope that you've enjoyed it. I will come back on and do another session all by myself. So if you have any requests or topics that you specifically wanted me to talk about, please comment or message me and let me know. Otherwise, I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I'll speak to you later. Bye. Thanks for watching this episode. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel, our mailing list, and follow us in our social channels so you never miss an episode. All our details are listed in the description box in YouTube. I look forward to bringing you another great episode next week. Welcome to our circle of support, Mama, with the Motherhood Circle. See you next week. With love, Ashley.